So now we're ready to install the top part of the 8756. So now take your drive shaft and a little bit of lube the crease up on the drive shaft and the shaft portion itself, making sure you're not lubing the hex part of it, because that will cause it to stick in the back inside the coupler. Next, you're going to take your boot seal, which this is the proper way, or what it should look like. If you turn it inside out, you don't want to install it that way. It'll cause a lot of leaking inside of the machine. So make sure that dimple is on the outside. Take that boot seal, slide it over, make sure it snaps over that ridge, and grab a little bit more lube. Just shoot a little shot on each side, and that will pack in there and seal the back side of that rear shell bearing. Push in until it snaps into place. So the next step is to take the drive shaft and a little bit of lube the shaft, the crease, knot the hex in just like you did on the other side. Take your boot seal, slide that over until it snaps into the groove. Put a little lube on each side, and then assemble the drive shaft into the rear shell bearing until it snaps in place. Next, you'll grab your beater. Taking your beater and a blade, you want to assemble the blade by just putting it at a little angle. You're going to get it underneath each lip and then drop it into the pin. It should have a little bit of movement. You can take your beater and rotate it. Take your next blade, put it in at an angle, slide it in, make sure the pin is there and it's underneath each lip on that beater. Then you're going to assemble the shoes. They have a little notched area in front, and there's a right and a wrong way. So that should always be in that position. You shouldn't try and put it to the front. Second one will go there, and they meet up and make a nice little shoe around the front of the beater. And now you can assemble your beater. Push in when it stops, just turn it a little bit and it'll slide into place, so it's just inside of that nose of the machine. I will take the opposite beater, grab the blade, put it at an angle, drop it into the pin, make sure it's under each lip, rotate the beater, drop the next blade in, and then put your shoes on. Again, make sure that shoe goes in the right side. And now you're ready to slide this beater into the freezing chamber. When it stops, just rotate a little bit until it falls into place and just inside of that front of that nose. Now we're ready to assemble the freezer door. First, you'll take your sleeve bearings. Your sleeve bearings kind of beveled on the one end. That will always go up against the back of the door, making sure that you don't go the other way. If you do, you will not get this door past those beaters. Again, making sure it goes all the way to the back of the door. Next, you can take your door gasket, which you can see it's rounded on one side. If I flip it over, it's flat. Just make sure the rounded always goes into the groove. So you'll just push that gasket down into the groove. Again, flat, rounded, rounded down. Next, you can take your prime plugs, slide the 2 O-rings over and into the groove. You'll take a little bit of lube and just lube the O-rings in half of that prime plug. And you can take that prime plug and slide it down through the prime plug opening. Next, you'll assemble the draw valves. And again, the draw valve will get 3 O-rings, except for the center draw valve will get 4. As we get them on here, we'll show you the difference between the center and the 2 outside ones. Put the 2 bigger black O-rings on. You have the 2 black ones on the top and bottom, and then one that goes right in the center, just pushing that into the groove. We'll take the other outside one, put the O-rings on the valve, and then take your single one and push that into that groove. Those were your 2 outside ones. Now you have your center. Put the 2 O-rings on the outside. And if an O-ring seems to get hung up, you can grab the little O-ring tool and just guide it up into its spot. Take the 2 smaller ones, and those you're going to push into the valve. And that's what the center one would look like. And this is your outside one. You can see there's 2 O-rings to the center and only 1 on the outside. Next, you can take a little bit of lube those O-rings and the draw valve shaft, and then you can just set that right down in the door. We'll take some more lube your 2 O-rings and your 2 smaller ones that are inside. With the remaining lube your draw valve shaft, slide that down the center. Again, take a little bit more lube, grab the last outside one, lube the 2 O-rings and the 1 small and the shaft. Slide that into the door. Now you're ready to assemble the door onto the front of the machine. Just take your door, again make sure that the black gaskets are in place, they're not popped out. Slide that door on, hold it towards the center, start one of your hand screws either on the top or the bottom. By keeping some pressure here, you're holding that door gasket on, and then just go crisscross with the hand screw. That'll pull your door gasket on evenly, which will allow it not to fall out on the bottom and cause a leak. So once you snug those up, you'll grab your other 2 hand screws and just go on the other sides. Once you get them all snug, just take them, maybe go crisscross and just give them a little extra. Make sure they're nice and tight. And I always run my finger underneath just to make sure I don't feel the gasket, that it did pop out while I was assembling the door. And that concludes putting the freezer door, and we're ready to sanitize the machine.